How are things? How are things?
Sarah Rose has now been on the treatment for 6 weeks, and Carrie's anxious to hear how she's doing.
Yeah, okay, the emotions are bouncing around. What about the physical stuff? You walked 35 yards. Yeah. I know you're wiggling your toes.
We're always very eager to hear about things that may make life better, but for all of them, we say that they need to be the subject of properly conducted trials, so that we can separate out, if you like, the power of positive thinking from the actual effect of the treatment. If we could get the power of positive thinking in a bottle, that would be a tremendous thing. That would take us a long way forward, but so far we haven't succeeded in doing that. So at the moment we still need to separate out people's individual experiences and placebo effect, which is very powerful in MS, and the power of hope from the actual biochemical or physical effect of a treatment.
On a bad day, you know, when I'm exhausted or I've had bad phone calls from people on the trial or something, yeah, it gets me down, it makes me lose confidence, it makes me think that maybe they're right and I shouldn't be doing this, and I'm not a scientist and maybe I don't know what I'm doing. And my big fear from the word go has been, A, I'm going to set up false hope for people with MS, because I've been there, and secondly, that I might end up doing them harm. So on a bad day when I lose confidence, those are the two things that haunt me.
John.
Good to see you. Yes.
Cari says the trial is going well, but she's about to be asked some tough questions by the Myelin Project, a charity involved in MS research.
John Williams.
The project, which has given her vital support up to now, has called a meeting. It wants concrete evidence that the treatment really is working.
What I think would be very useful, and we will be taking advice, is to do a retrospective analysis of the people who have been taking Cari's treatment with careful consideration of their case histories. And of course this is all with their agreement, both theirs and their doctors and their neurologists. And I think that that's the line that we'll be taking, to a retrospective analysis of the benefit. And we've all heard what have to be said to be anecdotal reports of benefit.
Why would the people on my trial ever agree to do it? Because it looks as if you're double-checking.
No, well, though not if they're clinically minded and if it's put to them in the proper way. If they don't agree to it, then we can't do a retrospective analysis.
No, it's very simple.
Basically, what you're communicating to them is we don't know that you haven't been telling lies. And I would not wish...
I mean, obviously, the benefit...
I think that is a slightly unfair statement to come out with, if you don't mind me saying so, Sheila.
Looking at a number of people and analysing how they are, I would have thought would be clear. I mean, it may be impractical to do this.
Why are we wanting to do it? Can I understand
The question of trust really annoys Cari.
I'm very protective about the people on my trial. They've all become quite special to me. Even though I've never met most of them, it's all over the phone, but I'm very protective towards them. And the thought of somebody going to them and saying, well, the only evidence we've got is what you say, and we need somebody to legitimise that. I know that if somebody came to me and said that, I would be quite offended, because the people on my trial trust me, and they know that I trust them and believe them. And to have a third party come in and say implicitly, but we don't believe you and we need someone else to come and verify what you're saying, I don't like that.
For Cari, this should be a red letter day. She's hosting a party for all the people on her trial and has a special announcement to make. But everything looks set to go wrong.
Since I filed the patent last year and since I started approaching people like the MS Society and drugs companies to try and get essentially a sponsor to take this on and to get it through to proper clinical trials and therefore official testing and hopefully recognition, all I've been hit with is a barrage of cynicism, scepticism and vitriolic attacks. From neurologists, from people with MS, believe it or not, who seem to want to prove that this isn't going to work and it's yet another quack cure. From the charities, God only knows why. And it looks like it's going to culminate this afternoon by what appears to be a set-up with people claiming they've been on my trial coming down to, use their words, blow the whistle on the whole treatment and prove it's quackery. Which I'm kind of used to by now, but I'm bloody sick of the whole thing, to be perfectly honest.
And we're back tonight.
Are we married? Look at you, look at this. I'm showing off, I've got heels too. No.
Yes, I know.
Come and meet the crowd, all right?
Yes.
Come and meet the crowd. Right.
Right.
Introduce yourselves, please.
Listen to the voice.
So many voices.
Don't be nasty to me, tell me. I know who you are and I can't remember your name.
Patricia.
Patricia, of course, it's Patricia. Hello, darling, how are you?
Right.
Give me
You're
a hug.
doing all right.
I want a hug. Give me a glass. Here to you. Hello. How are you, sweetheart?
Okay. Yes, I'll get out of this thing in a minute. Yay!
4 days after she started, she ran upstairs. She said, "Hey, look at me," and she went, "Boom!" And I'm standing there thinking, "Excuse me, what just happened?"
Yeah,
she
exactly.
actually ran up the stairs.
Exactly. I mean, I've got the use of my left hand back. I can feel. It's not like having a woolly glove on anymore. I can feel that skin.
You've ages. No. Are you on the treatment or not? No, you didn't get it. Okay, well, thanks for coming along, Pet. It's nice to see you. Go and grab yourself a drink or a seat. I should have guessed, because they've been trouble all the way down the line. Serious trouble all the way down the line. And I'm very annoyed that they've turned up because, although actually I'm a lot more confident about it now because they're not on my treatment. They tried to get it, their cardiologist ruled it out of court. They're not on it and they have turned up. But they head up a local MS group, which I went and spoke to. Oh, even better! It's weird. Seriously weird. It's amazing. I mean, the person I wanted to see most is Denny over there. Because Denny's the one that went 100% clear in 48 hours back to what she was at the age of 19 before MS hit. And I still don't understand it. But I mean, it's just... I don't know. It was overwhelming enough having people telling me things on the phone, but actually having them hugging me and telling me it's just... It's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
Cari, although she didn't believe it to begin with, I just said to her, "You've been sent by God," and I still believe that. And I think that it's going to
died
work.
of MS, you see, so she could have been talking to God and sent Cari to help us as well.
We had nowhere to
all the
go.
help you can get because we had nowhere. And Cari was like, believe it or not, she doesn't look like it, but she's an angel.
Did you have friends? We used to have friends.
Oh, really? Have you lost friends?
We lost every single friend
Have
we
you lost
had.
friends?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, would you become our friend?
Because I really think this disease is the modern-day leprosy.
It's irresponsible.
The criticism which Cari feared did not materialise, on this occasion at least.
I'm Denny Evans, and I'm number 65. And like Jill, number 2, I had an astonishing reaction to Cari's treatment. And I just want to say to the rest of you who've been on the treatment and who perhaps haven't had such an astonishing reaction to it, give it time. And I would like to thank her on behalf of everybody, but mostly on behalf of myself and my husband and my children. I'd like to thank her.
What's happened to us in 6 months is that I've got a wife back, my children have got a mother back, my grandchildren can now be held, and what I'm really trying to say, perhaps on behalf of all of you, is Cari Loder, I just have to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming into our lives, because up until that stage we had absolutely nothing. We were going on our own. My wife was dying in front of my eyes, and we have had a remission. But on behalf of us, all of us here, Cari Loder, I have to tell you, thank you for coming into my life. I don't know what I've done without it, so thank you very much indeed.
I had to say something.
Now listen, you noisy crowd. I've heard too many hours of all of you on the phone to know that I can't shut you up, but I'm going to try for 5 minutes, all right? I just want to say a piece of really good news that I can share with all of you today, because the drugs company involved have given me permission to do so, is that Scotia Pharmaceuticals have now taken out an exclusive license on the patent. So they're going to be working on the development of it, and we're going to be going to double-blind placebo clinical trials during the coming year. And hopefully, all being well, if your experiences, most of your experiences are repeated under the trial conditions, it should be available as a new treatment under NHS within 3 years' time for everybody, worldwide, not just UK.
Yeah.
That's it, nice relaxed neck. That's good.
To begin with, when I first started the treatment, I woke up the first day, I think, expecting to be totally recovered. I mean, it's pretty obvious, no one's going to get better overnight when you've had MS for 27 years. So yes, now after a couple of months, I thought, right, this is going to be an uphill, not an uphill struggle, but I'm going to actually have to work at it. It is not going to happen on its own. I'm 100% certain it will get better.
Relax, relax, relax.
Sarah from Harrogate has been on the treatment for 5 months, and she's noticed a real difference in what she can do.
Push, push, well done, well done.
The hands were the first thing which I noticed. For example, brushing my teeth. I was a lot stronger, better coordination. Turning the key in the door, opening a can of food. Then, of course, eating with a knife and fork, which I hadn't done for 4 years. And just being able to coordinate a knife and fork and put the fork to my mouth and also cut the food. It was before people actually had to cut the food for me, and then I'd eat with a fork. And the other day I drank soup out of with a spoon, which was quite a treat. I thought, I haven't done this before.
And relax. And push. Okay. Good, 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 good. Go on, push. And relax. I've been seeing her for about 18 months, and in the first instance, her day revolved really around people coming in to help her, people coming to help her get dressed, and now she's got a social life, she's got her life back, and she's got control of it. Whereas initially, when she really was really quite ill, other people controlled her life for her. Well, she maintained a hold on it, but now she can do exactly as she likes.
She's changed and her life's changed such a lot, but you're still not quite convinced that it's the treatment.
I would say it's a combination of everything. If the treatment is responsible, that's fine by me. And lift. And lift. Now let them go right over, touch the carpet. Okay, lift. And lift. Great. Take 5.
Are you absolutely sure that you're getting better because of the treatment?
The answer to that is yes, I am. One positive thing, which no one can argue with, are the medical tests I've had, which my doctor has given me, which no one can argue about. My reflexes are a lot better. All the tests she's given me shows improvement. Even she has said she cannot doubt the fact that I'm getting better.
Though Sarah's one of 80,000 people in Britain with MS, the condition is not yet fully understood, and no one can predict its course in individual patients. It's a disease of the central nervous system where damage to the covering of the nerve fibres prevents the brain from sending messages to other parts of the body, such as the feet. The medical establishment doubts that Cari's treatment works.
We followed some people on this treatment who do seem to have got much better. Do you not think that that anecdotal evidence has carries some weight?
Sadly, no, because the experience of all neurologists is that in the great majority of patients, by which I mean 90% of patients, there are spontaneous remissions in the disease which early in its course are complete.
But isn't it something of a coincidence that these remissions are occurring when people are trying this new treatment?
I'm afraid not at all, because if you were to say to me, is it not a coincidence that the patient got better after coming to the Russell Square Underground station, I think it would be difficult to sustain the position that a journey on the Underground was curative, and yet that is what happens.
Do you not think some people might feel that you're sceptical, you're bound to be sceptical, and you're not really willing to look at this with an open mind?
It's not a question of scepticism, it is a question of a concern that sick people are not given unreasonable hope when one knows from a lifetime of experience that spontaneous recovery occurs.
Cari's treatment, which costs patients around £15 a month, consists of 3 elements: an amino acid, an antidepressant on prescription, and regular injections of vitamin B12. How do others involved with research into MS feel about the treatment?
There is work that suggests that it's possible that certain types of antidepressant agents may actually influence the way in which the immune system works. Now, we do know that the immune system is very strongly involved with respect to the areas of damage that are caused to the brain and spinal cord in MS, although we don't fully understand how that is. However, this has not been tested in humans. It's been tested primarily on cells floating around in a dish. You have to realize that this sort of thing does happen from time to time, that the wonder cure is proposed, and I think professionally people really like to see good quality controlled trial work before they really get excited about something like this.
For Cari Loder herself, the treatment remains an unqualified success. Although MS is often characterized by attacks followed by periods of remission, Cari hasn't had an attack since she started the treatment 14 months ago.
Why is it that you're convinced that you're not going through a remission, that you've actually cured the MS?
I haven't cured it. It's not a remission because when I first tripped over this on 4 separate occasions, I went without one or the other or both of the drugs in the morning. By lunchtime, I couldn't walk upstairs again. 2 hours after taking them the next day, I was running upstairs. I did that on 4 separate times, besides which we now have in excess of 200 people on my trial. Are you telling me that they've all gone into spontaneous remission? It just happens to be sort of, a week after going on the treatment? Get real.
Cari, who works as a lecturer in education, has now decided to be much more cautious about recommending the treatment, in public at least.
I've never recommended it to anybody in the world ever. People saw me, had friends with MS relatives, asked them if they could put them in touch with me. I gave them the information. It was entirely up to them what they did with it. I have never recommended anybody to do this. Nor would I ever.
Why not?
Because until we've been through double-blind placebo clinical trials next year, I have no basis on which to recommend it to people other than anecdotal.
So for all those people with MS who might be watching this programme, what would your, and tempted to try, what would your advice be?
Well, A, they can't try it because they don't know what the drugs are. and don't think you're ever going to work out what the combination is. You won't. It's a bizarre combination at best. Secondly, hang on in there, watch this space. It's going to clinical trials next year, it'll be out.
Though her initial zeal has not worn off, Cari is finding the run-up to the trials nerve-wracking. If the treatment does work, 1 million MS sufferers worldwide could benefit, and Cari's share of the royalties could make her a multi-millionaire.
The majority of treatments that go into trial, in fact, don't ever get as far as being prescribable drugs, and pharmaceutical companies are well aware of the risks involved, and that means that the financial and other risks to them are very considerable. So one would hope that any company that was going to get into a trial would have evaluated all the available evidence and have some conviction that it was worth doing. But I think that the industry is very hard-nosed and very realistic about these things, and will recognise the risks.
My gut feeling is that this is going to work. I wouldn't really be going into this unless I thought there was a reasonable chance of it working. And I have been extremely excited by the personal histories that Cari has generated through ensuring that patients with MS can get the drugs at present. So my hunch is that it'll work, but I can't be certain until the trial is completed.
But the hunch of some others is quite different. The Friendship for MS support group meets weekly in North London. Last summer, they invited Cari to speak. 7 people in the group, including Sarah Wagner, tried the treatment. All but one showed no benefit at all.
Good evening, everyone. I think we'll start off by talking about the treatments that everybody's been trying to try and improve their condition. And I'd like to hear from you, David, as to how you're feeling.
When they told me about this new treatment, I tried it. 3 days later, you phoned me back and said, come off it, it's a scam. When you phoned back, I was on my way to hospital.
What actually happened to you?
It made me very depressed, very weak, made me very jumpy. It knocked me sideways. And when I went to the hospital, the doctor I was on there went bananas because he said we should never have done it. But having said that, somebody else who went on it when I went on it, a guy called Jack, he thinks it's brilliant. So it's obviously swings and roundabouts. What's good for one isn't good for somebody else.
I'd like to hear from Jack, because Jack is actually here tonight.
Hi, I'm getting a lot better on this treatment, but I believe this treatment is good for me.
Yes.
It depends on your luck. For some people it's good, some people not so good.
All right, Jack says, with respect to Jack, Jack says it's helped him. Okay, I feel maybe it's helped his walking, yes, and his speech somewhat, little bit. But how much is psychosomatic? How much is in the mind? How much of it is remission?
It hasn't helped me at all. I haven't seen any, I don't think any positive effects of it at all. But I said that I would try it for 6 months, and my GP is actually monitoring any progress that there might be, so that it's not just me, but there's someone objectively looking at it to see whether or not there is any improvement. But at the moment, I honestly can't say there is any improvement. In fact, my condition has got worse, but that I don't think it's because of the treatment, it's just the progression of the disease anyway.
Yes.
It did not do me any harm, it certainly didn't do me any good, and I think it's very unfair for people to be so taken in and
exploited.
Yes,
I should agree
because the disappointment, it's you know, unbelievable.
Cari Loder has what she's been waiting for, a meeting with the chief executive of the drugs company Scotia to start planning proper randomised, double-blind clinical trials.
Terrified. Absolutely terrified. I mean, the prospect of this actually being done by other people in controlled circumstances, I mean, this is make or break time now. Either it's going to be proven straight down the line or it fails. Or it's going to be kind of, you know, iffy in the middle. So, yeah, once the trial starts, I'll just be freaking out until we get the results, I suppose. I'm quietly confident, but, you know.
So, how's life been?
Chaos.
Pretty hectic.
You know I closed down on the trial?
Yes, you did.
Dream on.
Yeah.
It's still flooding through.
Really?
Absolutely. I mean, we've got about, how many are on my trial now? 240 plus? I think I was at 50 when I met you.
So it's going crazy.
Oh, I see, bananas. The best estimate we've got at the moment, because this seems to be going mainstream through GPs right now, it's just exploding. We think there's probably in the region of 1,000 people on treatment now, UK-wide.
That's amazing. But what you're basically saying is that there are two active components to the treatment. The B12 component, yeah. Now, I think it's almost impossible to do a trial in which you're looking at 3 different variables simultaneously. So we've got to cut it down to 2 variables simultaneously. And I think the way to handle that is to make sure that everybody is getting B12 injections.
Okay.
Duration of the trial. I mean, what is your feel about what proportion of people are going to have a really substantial response in 6 months?
If I had 10 people contact me out of the blue tomorrow, and all of them were to go onto the treatment, because this is what's been happening, I would expect 6 of those to be reporting in with significant improvement within 2 weeks. And that's what it's been running at.
Okay, so, I mean, let's be really conservative on this, because it really is important to be conservative, because the worst thing to do is to do a trial which is not quite big enough and doesn't turn out to be quite statistically significant, because then all the effort you're putting into it is not adequate. If we were to say what we have to have is a trial which is large enough to show real benefit in 40% of patients?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I think we're getting pretty close to defining the trial. I mean,
how many people would you be talking about, do you think?
Probably 120 people in the trial would be enough. In our experience, from the stage where we're at now, it is likely to take about a year before the trial can start. And that's because there is a great deal of work to be done on developing and designing a protocol which is acceptable really to 3 groups of people: to the patients themselves, to the doctors who will be seeing the patients, and to the statisticians who will be evaluating the results. So there's a lot of toing and froing in terms of designing a protocol.
Cari is delighted with the meeting. She's also been promised a continuing role in the planning of the trials. But how likely are neurologists to support trials that last just 6 months, when MS varies so much from patient to patient?
It's generally accepted now that in order to demonstrate a clinical effect in treating multiple sclerosis, it's necessary to study a minimum of 250 patients over at least 2 years before you are likely to be able to get a meaningful answer.
So you wouldn't be impressed with the results of 120 people over 6 months, which is what's planned here?
No study of the effects of treatment in multiple sclerosis has shown a clear-cut benefit which has subsequently been confirmed with that number of patients over that period.
Do you think it's likely that they will find a neurologist in this country to get involved with the trials?
I think that the neurologists that I know who have been involved in formal clinical trials would be unlikely to take part in a trial which was not sufficiently powered to give an answer.
If you were approached, would you be willing to become involved with these trials?
No, for the reason that I have just given. And also, we are committed anyway to the exploration of other rational approaches to the treatment of the disease, and our laboratory here is fully occupied with that at present.
They make me angry because of the basis of their argument, which is basically, don't rock the boat. You're not a medic. You're a patient. Patients aren't allowed to make themselves better. And it's the greatest evil in the world for a patient to make other patients better. You're not allowed to do that. Because they're God, you see. And you don't turn around and tell God what to do. Well, excuse me, I do. Because they have failed us. And they consistently fail us. So I don't care what they say. I'm just going to laugh in their faces and say, all right, you stand there, I'll stand here, and we'll wait and see who's right at the end of the day. And if I'm wrong, I will bow to your greater prowess. Because I know if I'm right, you won't bow to me. If I'm right, you're going to hate my guts more than you do already. See, some of them have spent 20 years in research trying to crack MS. And a young woman who's not a medic, not a scientist, and has no financial backing, and no team, and no lab, and no support, comes up with what is looking like the best solution to date for MS.
Oh, well done. No, it's mine. It's mine. It's mine. Get ahead of it.
Denny Evans from South London is in no doubt that the treatment works. She's had MS for more than 20 years. Her vision, speech, balance, hands, legs were all affected.
My little Maradona.
Yet within 24 hours of going on Cari's treatment, all her symptoms had disappeared.
If it's a remission, it's the most complete and awesome remission I've ever had. I've had remissions before throughout the last 20 years of having MS, and I've never had a remission where I have regained all my energies, plus I don't suffer from fatigue anymore. It's like being mugged by Labrador puppies. Go away.
It's like being mugged by Claire.
It's worked very well up to now. There hasn't been any negative effects. Obviously it takes a long time to work out how the treatment will turn out in the long run. It also takes a long time for everybody to get used to that. It takes a long time for me to get used to almost living with somebody I haven't really lived with before. It takes Denny a long time to, although in the park today she was running, it's a new thing for her. She's got to relearn how to run. And that takes not just a matter of the physical, but you've also got to think about how you've got to have a new attitude to life.
Nobody with MS going through their body can describe accurately and fully what it feels like. And I don't even think that I could describe now totally accurately how it feels to feel alive. Oh, the next one. It's just awesome. And what annoys me with the medical profession, I've tried to tell my GPs, I've tried to tell my new neurologist, and I just get this blank, glazed look, this patronising condescension on the part of the medical profession. They need to open their eyes and their ears and actually see and hear what people who suffer with any sort of disease, not MS alone, but anything, the people who live with it, who cope with it from day to day, year to year, listen, they need to listen to us and believe what we're saying.
Whatever the truth about Cari's treatment, the bandwagon rolls on. The patent has been lodged in 77 countries. The drugs company is talking to neurologists about its plans for clinical trials, and Cari has written a book about her life. But, she says, the whole experience has been a mixed blessing.
Reluctant heroine? Yeah, in terms of people saying I'm a miracle worker. I'm not. Bloody lucky. Been heralded as the cure of multiple sclerosis. Well, maybe I will be at the end of the day. Somebody had to be, sooner or later. I don't care. All I wanted was my life back, and I got it. I don't want anything else. I don't want accolades. I don't want fame. I particularly want fortune.
It's not working.
It's not working. Sure. Yes, it is. You just have to press a bit harder. It's not a felt tip. It's not one of the fuzzy ones. It's a crayon. You have to press a bit harder.
She's changed as a person because she now has a much bigger understanding of how fortunate she is in life. If I wanted to be very unkind to her, I would say she was somebody who had a tremendous chip on her shoulder before she ever had MS. And I hope that whatever happens for her in life never lets her forget what it was like to be given life back in this kind of abundance. Cari now has a confidence in herself because she feels that she has fought and beaten something incredibly big in her life. So she's a little bit like a hero returning from a war. She's still flying her banner, and long may she fly it.
A shock for Cari. She's had an unexpected relapse. The result, she believes, of too much stress in her life.
The first thing I noticed was that my right leg was feeling less than 100%, only marginally less than 100%. I mean, when I'd been walking for about 3/4 of an hour, it felt marginally tired. The next thing I noticed about a week and a bit later was that the left side of my tongue felt as if it was burnt, actually. And it took me a while to realise that I hadn't burnt it, and that's when the burning sensation went, and it actually just started to feel marginally numb on the left-hand side, and then it spread down my lip, and then it spread down my chin, and then it spread up the side of my face. I mean, not numb, it's just that it doesn't feel, you know, didn't feel 100% normal.
Cari is now fully recovered and continuing with the treatment. A recent independent analysis of the first 80 people on her trial found that just over half reported some benefit. But a significant number had shown no improvement and had stopped taking the treatment. Cari's own relapse will also, no doubt, be the subject of much debate amongst medical experts.
My only concern about talking about this is that some people who want to be sceptical will simply say, well, it was just a remission anyway. And you've just proved it by having another attack. That is not the way it is.
Details of an information line on this programme follow shortly. And Cutting Edge takes a short break, returning to Channel 4 in March.